Hello, my name is Tom Yamashita, and welcome to my poster on the comparison of mammal use of a highway before and during construction of wildlife crossings in South Texas. So, roads can have a major impact on wildlife, causing habitat fragmentation and direct mortality from vehicle collisions. Wildlife crossing structures are often built to reduce impacts of roads and to promote habitat connectivity. However, in order to assess how effective these structures are, it's important to know how they were being used before they were built. So on Farm to Market 1847, the Texas Department of Transportation has begun construction of wildlife crossings and wildlife guards to reduce threats of roads to ocelots. And this began in February of 2020. Our objectives for this study are to establish baseline usage of wildlife crossing locations on FM1847 and assess how disturbance associated with construction affects the mammal community at these future wildlife crossing locations. Our study area is located in Cameron County, Texas, where several other wildlife crossings have been built for ocelots. These include those on State Highway 100 and FM106. To look at the mammal community, we used Reconyx Hyperfire 2 camera traps set up at each future wildlife crossing structure. We set up 4 cameras on each side of the highway at each location for a total of 8 cameras at each site. In the pre-construction period, we monitored from July of 2019 through January of 2020. And then in the construction period, we monitored from February of 2020 until November of 2020. During the construction period, we had to slowly remove cameras as construction progressed. So by November of 2020, there were no more cameras left. So we used a 30-minute interval to define independent camera trap events for mammals. And in the pre-construction period, we identified mostly opossums, rodents, cottontails, raccoons, and domestic cats. And then the early construction period, we had a similar species composition with a wide variety of mammals. However, there were overall fewer events than in the pre-construction period. So we also assessed how the mammal community differed at the different sites, the different crossings, and in the different time periods using a permanova. We used a correspondence analysis to visualize patterns among sites and species. And we found statistically significant differences in the mammal community at crossing structures and between time periods. We found that opossums and domestic cats were most associated with crossing 1, coyotes, deer, feral hogs, and raccoons were most associated with crossing 3, and cottontails and rodents were most associated with crossings 4 and 5. In our final analysis, we looked at the dial activity of mammals with greater than 60 events across all sites in each time period. And we compared these using the activity package in R. We were able to do this analysis on 7 different species. And we found that most species showed no changes in activity from the pre-construction to early construction period. We did see, however, that raccoons changed peak activity from early in the evening in the pre-construction period to later in the evening in the construction period. We also saw differences in opossum activity. However, this was more likely due to differences in the number of events, fewer events in the construction period. So we found differences in sites in the mammal community at different sites and also in different time periods, but we did not see any changes in dial activity. So these results can now form a baseline for comparison once the crossings are complete and we're able to begin monitoring them again. So with that, I'd like to thank the Texas Department of Transportation for funding this work and the Cesar Kleberg Wildlife Research Institute for supporting my research, as well as all the undergrads who helped sort the thousands of pictures. And with that, I can take any questions you have, and